Hey everybody, you're checking out the Uncensored Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Ant, the current and longest reigning WWE pay-per-view champion of all time. And I'm here to give you our Broken Skull Session series recaps. I am back, and this episode I'm dropping is our coverage of Stone Cold Steve Austin's interview with the Godfather. It was a really good interview. For all of you new to the channel or new to this episode, welcome, or to this series, welcome. This is not a full deep dive into the episode because obviously you could check it out on Peacock or on the WWE Network if you're out of the States. However, it's still just a little slow recap of some of the important topics and the main events that Stone Cold and the Godfather talk about. You could check out our playlist, which covers all of the episodes that have premiered so far, and there is more to come. I will announce the next guest on the Broken Skull Sessions recap at the end of this episode. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and let's dive into this episode. So Stone Cold and the Godfather talk, and the Godfather now owns a cannabis business. He says that weed has been really good for his health, and he really enjoy smoking pot because it helps them. You know, being a wrestler and taking all the bumps and life on the road, it definitely is hard on your body and definitely daunting. So smoking pot can definitely help, and I can understand. I'm an avid smoker, so 420, let's go. The Godfather sleeps at 8:30 p.m. and he gets up at 3 a.m. every morning. He loves that because he loves getting up in the morning and feeling the nice calm. Um, he talks about any single time you would pass Kurt Hennig or Mr. Perfect in an airport, you would have to go and do a gurgle shot with him anytime you saw him. So that's pretty daunting on you, having to get drunk before a flight. But, you know, with Kurt Hennig, why not? So the Godfather talks about his early career. He played basketball during high school, and then he went on to play football. He went on to college, but he got kicked out for fighting too much. And this one thing's interesting. The Godfather ended up joining a motorcycle gang, and he filmed a movie close to his bar. And Scott Norton and some other wrestlers told him he should wrestle. And he learned that Bam Bam Bigelow made $1 million the year prior, and so he definitely wanted to do it. So Godfather gets signed, and his first match was against Jerry the King Lawler, and all he knew was how to listen to the King, and he was actually put over in that match. Then the Godfather went to work for Jerry Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis. He had the best times during those years, and he was had in the crowd with a lot of topless dancers, and he had a lot of fun during that. Um, Stone Cold talked about how during Dutch Mantel told Stone Cold Steve Austin uh, before a match to slam Soul Taker, who was the Godfather. Um, he did that. And backstage, the Godfather told Stone Cold Steve Austin to let him know anytime he planned on slamming him again. Stone Cold didn't want a job to for the Godfather, and Stone Cold told him that it wasn't against God. It wasn't anything against Godfather. He just didn't want to lose because then he would always be the person to lose. Godfather wanted to learn, you know, you didn't want to go into it being a badass. He wanted to learn the ropes of being a pro wrestler. Undertaker and Godfather had a match and it was horrible, but they ended up becoming a tag team called Death Express. Godfather was a big country music fan, and Godfather got Undertaker into country music and bikes. So that was an interesting detail to know that Undertaker likes country music as well. Undertaker and Godfather go on a drive during a snowstorm. Godfather wanted to take over and drive, even though he had never drove in the snow, and he ended up driving into a ditch. So that just shows you that the Undertaker could have been a real dead man at that point. Godfather got a tryout, and he became Papa Shango. It was pretty much born from James Bond. There was a movie called Live and Let Die, and there was a voodoo character, and that's where they got the Papa Shango gimmick from. He went to New Orleans and learned from people. He needed background, and he wanted to be as authentic to the character as possible. He was still green as Papa Shango, but it was a hard gimmick to put over at that time. However, when the Godfather put on the face paint, he wanted talk. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He'd be very quiet when he gets into the character. We see footage of his rivalry with the Ultimate Warrior. Godfather got divorced around that time, and he was mean. Undertaker told Godfather that we needed to go home and let him go. Undertaker ended up babysitting Godfather. he wasn't a wrestling fan. Wrestling for Godfather was always the second job. Strip clubs were his first. Um, and then for years, the WWE would call him, and they ended up getting an idea for a UFC-inspired character named Kama, the fighting machine. He was excited to ride with Harley Race the matches. We see footage from his match against The Undertaker at SummerSlam in 1995. He left the WWF and was offered to go to WCW, but Ron Simmons told him that he shouldn't go to WCW because they call you names in that place and they are very racist. Interesting. Vince came back as Pop. Vince wanted Godfather to come back as Papa Shango. He took pictures, and then Vince told him he was going to join the Nation instead. Vince told Godfather and Mark Henry that he wanted fans to hate The Rock, so when he turned, The Rock would be a big star. The Nation was a group that each member did well on. Ron gave great advice, and Ron was a great mentor. A lot of The Rock's sayings actually came from Ron Simmons. The Nation members didn't hang out because the Godfather would go to strip clubs every night, and The Undertaker paid for Stone Cold Steve Austin's stripper to dance on him one time. They talk about that fun time. Godfather talks about BSK, was a great group. They played dominoes. Yokozuna was a rapper that, and they were on the road, and Godfather had a country music playing in the car, and Yoko tossed out the tape, and he said, Godfather, you're black. That's a funny segment. Yokozuna said Godfather is black. The Godfather gimmick would never happen today. His contract was coming up, and Godfather grew out his hair, wore a hat. His wife came up with the idea of him being a nice pimp and letting your personality come out. His wife did everything. WWE had nothing to do with it until it got over. Everything came from his wife. When Vince asked if he could get girls, they planted seeds with The Rock calling him Godfather in a promo in April 1998. We watched a promo of Godfather in November 1999. He was never scripted. He had a great time with the gimmick. He told Vince that people smoke weed and we could speak to that crowd, with that message. He talked about his famous theme song. Jim Johnson, the famous creator, created that song, and everyone loved it. Undertaker, Godfather, and the Harris brothers got girls and brought them to WWE, and it got over very quickly overnight. We see him on Heat in November 1998. He offers The Undertaker to pick hose. It was fun. It almost made The Undertaker break character. He helped The Undertaker get his first tattoos from Las Vegas tattoo. Vince was pissed about it. He loved working with The Undertaker and wrestling the APA. Owen Hart, when he fought him, he made things easy. The APA, Godfather, and Tay Long would ride together. And he talks about how he joined the Right to Censor. He hated it. He did not like it. It became a shoot for him. It became a job. He loved who he worked with, but it was not the right time for him. They had to release The Godfather because no one bought the Godfather like character. He wasn't the same. He remembers getting high with Snoop Dogg before the Hall of Fame, and he forgot to thank his wife during the ceremony because he had them thank his grandson, but he wanted to make sure he took time to thank his wife. So it was a great revealing interview with The Godfather. Great to hear about his backstory and about his life and love with his wife. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Our next episode is going to be on the great Kevin Nash. You might know him as Diesel. WCW fans will know him as Kevin Nash, but he's a great wrestler, so it was great to hear from him. So thank you for checking this episode out. Stay tuned, stay safe, and stay